One of Andy's toys appeared inside Riley's mind. A girl who looks exactly like her went to school with May, from Turning Red. And a hidden connection to Andy's family could explain why Riley will become Jessie and Buzz's next owner. Riley. It's possible that Pixar is planning the biggest crossover between its movies, where Bonnie and Riley will finally meet. But how could that happen? Well, it would all have to start with Bonnie giving up her toys and handing them over to Riley. And this may be something that has already been set up since Toy Story 5. In the movie, Bonnie almost gives up on having toys because the other kids prefer different kinds of toys. Thankfully, she changes her mind and doesn't abandon Jessie. But what if that changes in Toy Story 6? Toy Story 5 director Andrew Stanton said he wants Toy Story 6 to be Bonnie's final movie and to work as her farewell, which confirms that she will part ways with Jessie and the rest of the toys. After all, in the next movie, Bonnie will be older and may naturally lose interest in playing this time. But the franchise will need another human character to follow, and that's where we think Riley from Inside Out will come in. But why would she of all people become the new owner of the Toy Story toys? And how would that even work? Relax, because we're going to explain all of that and much more in this video. Edie's mom. The idea of Riley appearing in Toy Story sounds crazy, but there is one character who connects the two franchises. She is known as Mrs. Davis, Andy's mother. She looks so much like Riley that there is even a theory claiming the main character from Inside Out is actually Andy's mom as a child. Zoom in on their eyes, they both have blue eyes. As if having blonde hair cut in the same style wasn't already enough. But if Riley and Mrs. Davis were the same person at different points in time, that would mean Riley would already be an adult in Toy Story 6. So, we came up with another possibility that explains everything. The Inside Out character and Mrs. Davis are not the same person, but they are related. Maybe Riley is Mrs. Davis's niece, which would mean she and Andy are cousins. And while we're at it, take a look at Riley's parents. They both have brown hair and brown eyes, which makes the chances that Riley inherited her blonde hair from her aunt, Mrs. Davis, even greater. The best part is that if Riley really is Andy's cousin, then we already have an idea of how she and Bonnie could meet for the first time. In Toy Story 6, when Bonnie decides she is going to give up her toys, she might take them back to Andy, and that's when Woody's former owner could ask Riley to meet the girl and take the toys. Can you imagine this crossover actually happening? Lenny. In case you still don't believe that Toy Story and Inside Out take place in the same universe, how about we take a look at the time when a character from the toy franchise simply appeared in Inside Out 2? Zoom in right here. These toy binoculars are none other than Lenny, who has been part of the Toy Story story since the very first movie. What's interesting is that Lenny is one of the objects found inside Riley's mind, which means that she must have played with him at some point, or at the very least seen him sometime during her life. You could say that this Lenny isn't the same character who appears in Toy Story. But now that we know there is a strong chance Riley and Andy are cousins, things change. It makes sense to imagine that at some point in her life, Riley traveled to her cousin Andy's house when she was younger and played with his toys, including Lenny. She must have had so much fun with the binoculars that a copy of him was created inside her mind. It's kind of crazy that an Easter egg very few people noticed may actually be a clue that Riley had a secret relative this entire time. Toys and emotions. We already know that Riley doesn't just have a secret relative. She also has a head full of funny, out-of-control emotions. Joy and the other emotions will definitely appear in Toy Story 6, and the best part is this. They may even become friends with Woody, Jessie, and Buzz. You may think that's impossible since Riley's emotions live inside her head, and not even the toys know that humans have an entire control room run by tiny creatures inside their minds. However, the toys and the emotions from both franchises aren't all that different when you really think about it. Both are things that shouldn't be alive, but somehow are, and humans absolutely cannot find out about it. If both of them really exist in the same universe, it's fair to believe that they share some kind of magical connection. That means the toys may be able to communicate with the emotions somehow. In that case, we would see Woody, Buzz, and Jessie meeting joy, anxiety, and disgust. Maybe the same thing that gives the toys life is also what gives the emotions life. And Toy Story 6 would have the perfect opportunity to explain it. But tell us, who do you think is cooler, Bonnie or Riley? Comment Bonnie or Riley down below so we can see who wins this battle. Turning red. When you really think about it, Toy Story 6 has the opportunity to show us many other things, because it looks like Turning Red also takes place in the same universe as these movies. Pause this scene and zoom in. Do you notice that a blonde girl who looks exactly like Riley is at May's school in Turning Red? This girl looks so much like her that it can't be a coincidence. So yes, Riley and May apparently went to school together, and that suggests the connection isn't limited to Toy Story and Inside Out, but may actually exist between all Pixar movies. That's why so many people believe in the Pixar theory, which claims that all the movies take place in the same universe. Come to think of it, what if the crossover Pixar is building is bigger than anyone could have imagined, bringing together Toy Story, Inside Out, Turning Red, and maybe even other incredible movies? Bonnie's emotions. Even if Toy Story 6 is only a crossover between the toy franchise and Inside Out, it will already be amazing. And one of the coolest things they could do is show us what the emotions inside Bonnie's head are like. That would be hilarious. Although Riley's emotions are the ones we see the most in Inside Out, every human in this universe has little creatures living inside their head and operating the controls. There are even a few scenes showing what happens inside the minds of Riley's parents, for example. So, it's about time we found out what happens inside Bonnie's head. What are her emotions like? They were certainly working at full speed when the little girl was bullied by the other kids in Toy Story 5. And while we're on the subject, could the toys also have a tiny emotions inside their heads? Friends, it's hard to know whether the toys have emotions living inside their heads, but there is one thing that's pretty easy to predict. Riley and Bonnie are going to become friends, maybe even best friends. We just need to look at what happens to them in the latest movie from each franchise to understand why. In both Toy Story 5 and Inside Out 2, they have trouble fitting into a new group of friends and feel like they need to change who they are just to feel like they belong. On top of that, both Riley and Bonnie are kind of goofy, and that's one of the main reasons they feel like they need to change themselves to fit in. So, if they met each other, they would finally feel comfortable being themselves when they were together, and that would be really adorable to watch. Pizza Planet. There are many other details connecting the Toy Story and Inside Out movies to each other, and to the Pixar universe as a whole. Like the Pizza Planet Easter egg, zoom in near Joy's bed in Inside Out 2. This piece of origami looks like the Pizza Planet truck, which first appeared in the original Toy Story. It has appeared in almost every Pixar movie since then, and is one of the details that supports the Pixar theory. But Lenny isn't the only Toy Story detail hidden inside Riley's mind. The next code appears right when the emotions are imprisoned, and reveals that this connection may have been placed there on purpose. Zoom in on the cell. The code is ACX3, which is written in Roman numerals. Do what it means when we translate it. If your answer was Ashisen, you got it right. It turns out that this code first appeared in the original Toy Story on the license plate of Andy's mom's minivan, but its history goes back much further, because that is the number of the animation classroom at the California Institute of the Arts where several Pixar employees studied before they started working at the studio. And if you're not subscribed yet, you know what to do. Click and hit the bell so you don't miss any videos. Strategy. Besides the clues within the story, there are also real-life signs that this could happen. The main reason. Inside Out and Toy Story are two of Pixar's biggest franchises. Toy Story was the movie that turned the studio into a major success, while Inside Out 2 exceeded every expectation by becoming Pixar's highest-grossing movie. For a while, it was the highest-grossing animated movie from any studio. That success convinced Disney that it should go all in on its strategy of making more sequels to its animated movies, like Zootopia 2 and Toy Story 5, which also performed extremely well at the box office. Disney loves making money, so it knows that the next step is to make both Toy Story 6 and Inside Out 3. However, the company behind Mickey Mouse knows that there is something that would attract much more attention than regular sequels to these franchises. A crossover that brings together two massive hits, using the signs that both stories have always taken place in the same universe to create an extraordinary movie. Speaking of extraordinary, it's time to talk about the most extraordinary part of this entire theory. Inside Out 3. This entire crossover is supposed to happen in Toy Story 6. But what if the story continues in Inside Out 3? After all, the plan is still for Riley to remain the main character in the next Inside Out movies, and for us to watch her grow up. That's what David Holstein, the co-writer of Inside Out 2, said about the future of the franchise. So, even if Riley becomes the new owner of Bonnie's Toys, she will continue having her emotional adventures in the Inside Out franchise. And honestly, that would be amazing because it means Inside Out 3 would feature the Toy Story toys, making the two franchises practically spin-offs of each other. Something similar happens with the Despicable Me and Minions movies, which share characters. The difference is that one franchise focuses on Gru, while the other focuses on the Minions. In the case of these Pixar movies, Toy Story would continue focusing on the toys, and Inside Out would still focus on the emotions, but both groups would appear in both franchises. It's almost over, but until then you can stay with us. There are two super fun videos waiting for you. Thanks and see you next time.